A Taylor Swift source has been revealed by Candace Owens.
Music icon Taylor Swift's reputation now removed from a heated Hollywood legal battle.
I wish I never met Blake.
Looks like Taylor Swift is out of the woods.
This is the source that came to Justin Baldoni's attorney to speak of the extortion attempt by Blake Lively. Holy cow, stick around for that.
It wasn't just another subpoena, this was a fuse waiting to be lit. When Taylor Swift's legal team officially filed a motion to quash the subpoena demanding her testimony in the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni lawsuit, it triggered a backstage storm no one was supposed to see.
Baldoni wanted to get a subpoena of Taylor Swift so that he could look at this one email that proves that she was being extorted by Blake Lively.
According to insiders, Blake Lively completely lost it. Allegedly, the moment Taylor's camp said no, Blake's entire legal strategy began to unravel. The woman who once boasted about Taylor's deep involvement in It Ends With Us, from song licensing to emotional support, was suddenly standing alone, and she knew it.
Who allegedly said that Lively's lawyers made extortionate threats to Taylor Swift's law firm, demanding the singer release a statement of support for Lively. Baldoni's lawyer adding it could evidence an attempt to intimidate and coerce a potential witness.
The moment hit like a betrayal, but not from an enemy. This came from the very friend she'd name-dropped in interviews, leaned on in negotiations, and, according to leaked allegations, threatened behind closed doors. That's the word swirling now. Threatened. Because buried in the filings and whispered from someone connected to Taylor's inner circle is the claim that Blake didn't just ask Taylor to back her up publicly, she allegedly demanded it. And not gently. The rumor? That Blake warned Taylor that if she didn't issue a statement of support post-Super Bowl, she'd release 10 years' worth of private texts between them. Texts, allegedly, that could ruin Taylor's image.
Blake Lively was accused of threatening Taylor Swift to publicly support her or else release 10 years worth of text messages, amongst other things.
Some are calling it emotional blackmail. Others say it's proof the friendship was already toxic beyond repair. But here's what we know for sure. Taylor didn't cave. Not only did she refuse to back Blake publicly, she let her lawyers do the talking, loud and clear. Her legal team said the subpoena was unduly burdensome, irrelevant, and a complete invasion of privacy. Then came the twist no one saw coming. The request was withdrawn. Taylor would not testify. And just like that, one of the most powerful pop stars in the world pulled the plug on any attempt to make her the scapegoat in this escalating legal disaster. Behind the scenes, Blake's camp tried to spin it as a win. But sources close to the case are telling a different story. One that involves panic, desperation, and a legal team scrambling to maintain control.
Who was the person who was Unexpected Dragon? Who was the person that very clearly after this Super Bowl thing got upset? Drum roll, please, you guys. Allegedly, Taylor Swift's father.
And that's just the beginning, because the moment Taylor said no, everything else started crashing down. It almost feels poetic, or maybe just twisted, because the song at the heart of this entire legal mess isn't about romance. It's not about heartbreak in the traditional sense. Taylor Swift herself admitted in an interview that My Tears Ricochet was about friendship. Not the rosy, glittery kind you post on Instagram, the kind that starts with blind loyalty and ends in devastation. Taylor said it herself. When you're close with someone for years, they know exactly how to destroy you. And when that bond breaks, it's not just painful, it's strategic. Friends turned enemies know which wounds to slice open, which secrets to weaponize. So the fact that this was the song Blake Lively insisted on using for It Ends With Us, the symbolism is hard to ignore. Sources say Blake personally fought for My Tears Ricochet to anchor the emotional core of the trailer. But now people are asking, was that song really about the film, or was it about the feud? Taylor, by her own admission, views the song as a metaphor for friends tearing each other apart. And if you believe the leaked whispers coming out of the court filings, that's exactly what happened here.
This means the mother of dragons, Khaleesi, forgot that there could be a father to the dragon.
A friendship so tightly intertwined with status and spotlight that once it turned, the aftermath became nuclear. Taylor's camp was reportedly blindsided by how heavily Blake leaned on their connection. One insider called it a one-sided friendship that turned manipulative the second it was no longer useful. Blake, of course, had a different narrative. She went on record, praising Taylor for helping her through the most personal moments of filming. She told reporters the two were in sync, that Taylor's music guided her through post-production. But now, we're seeing a very different picture emerge. Taylor says she never saw the film until after it was released. She never stepped foot on set, never gave creative input, never even knew she was being used as a chess piece in a power play between Blake and Baldoni. So why was Blake spinning the opposite story in the press? Maybe Blake thought name-dropping Taylor would shut down criticism. Maybe she assumed Taylor would stay silent no matter what. But using My Tears Ricochet, a song about betrayal and friendship turned battlefield, now looks less like a coincidence and more like a confession.
And Taylor Swift may have taken the high road, but Daddy Swift, not so much.
And when the emotional weight of that song collided with the legal weight of Taylor refusing to testify, the foundation of Blake's credibility cracked. For months, Blake Lively painted a picture, one where Taylor Swift wasn't just a friend, but a quiet collaborator, a guiding force who had been with her through it all. She told interviewers that Taylor had given her advice, helped shape the emotional tone of It Ends With Us, and even implied Taylor had been part of key creative decisions behind the scenes. The implication was clear. Taylor wasn't just a name on the soundtrack, she was an invisible hand behind the curtain, helping Blake bring her vision to life. But when the pressure hit and subpoenas were filed, that entire narrative shattered. Taylor Swift's public statement was calm, surgical, and utterly damning. She confirmed what many in Baldoni's camp had been hinting at for weeks. She had zero involvement in the making of It Ends With Us. Not only did she never set foot on set, she wasn't involved in casting, didn't see any edits, and didn't offer a single note. She didn't score the film. She didn't preview the trailer. She didn't even watch the movie until weeks after it had premiered. And the cherry on top? She licensed her music like any of the other 18 artists involved. No special treatment, no creative collaboration, no allegiance.
Legal battle between the It Ends With Us stars still in full swing, but it may end here for Taylor Swift.
That public statement hit like a gavel slamming down in a courtroom. And though Taylor's tone was polite, the subtext was impossible to miss. Stop dragging my name into this. It wasn't just a clarification. It was a clean break, one that sliced through the web of Blake's PR spin and left her looking dangerously exposed. Because if she'd been lying or even exaggerating about Taylor's role in the project, what else had she embellished? If she was willing to fake a narrative for the sake of optics, what did that mean for the rest of her claims, especially the ones being examined under oath? Legal experts have since pointed out that a witness's credibility is often more valuable than any single piece of evidence. If a jury believes you bend the truth in one area, they'll question everything. And now, Blake's credibility is under fire, not just from her critics or opposing counsel, but from a former friend with global influence and receipts. This wasn't just a PR correction, it was a legal body blow. Because Taylor didn't just refuse to testify, she torched the foundation of Blake's entire story. And in doing so, she may have given Baldoni's team the very opening they needed to dismantle Blake's case, one shattered illusion at a time. If the cracks in Blake's version of events were already showing, this was the wrecking ball. According to court documents and behind-the-scenes whispers, what triggered the now infamous subpoena wasn't some random fishing expedition. It was a tip that came from deep inside Taylor Swift's camp. On February 14th, according to attorney Brian Friedman, someone close to Taylor revealed a disturbing claim that Blake Lively had threatened Taylor Swift behind closed doors. Not threatened with violence, but with exposure. The kind of exposure that would shake any celebrity to their core. The threat, as described, was crystal clear. If Taylor didn't publicly support Blake, especially after Blake was noticeably absent from the Super Bowl, fueling rumors of a rift, then Blake would allegedly release 10 years of private text messages between them, 10 years of secrets, 10 years of inside jokes, pain, growth, mistakes, messages exchanged during breakups, career crises, personal lows. Taylor, who built her empire on carefully choosing what to share and what to protect, was reportedly stunned and hurt deeply. Because this wasn't coming from a stranger. It was coming from someone she once considered chosen family. Taylor never publicly confirmed the threat, but what's notable is what she didn't say.
The fact that her dad and her are very close, and her dad is a very successful businessman, and the Taylor Swift brand is worth so much money.
She didn't deny it. She didn't call it fake news. She didn't stand up for Blake. She said nothing that would throw cold water on the idea that her trust had been violated. And now people are starting to connect the dots. The sudden withdrawal of the subpoena. The insider leaks claiming Baldoni's team got exactly what they needed. The motion to quash becoming moot because Taylor's side allegedly provided what was requested without court enforcement, and it doesn't stop there. New filings suggest Baldoni's attorneys now possess documentation that backs up their claims, evidence that Blake's team did threaten to expose Taylor's messages. If that's true, if the court can verify that someone tried to use private communication as leverage for public loyalty, then this isn't just a bad look. It could legally redefine how Blake's actions are interpreted by the court, because in a case already riddled with claims of manipulation, power struggles, and PR warfare, an extortion-adjacent accusation, especially one aimed at Taylor Swift, could demolish the fragile foundation Blake's case rests on. If the court agrees that Blake tried to force a narrative by threatening one of the world's most powerful entertainers, then every other claim she's made becomes suspect. This isn't just about a failed friendship. It's about how far someone might go when the truth doesn't serve their story. If there was ever a moment when this feud crossed the point of no return, it was this. Barely an hour before the courts officially confirmed Taylor Swift wouldn't be testifying, an exclusive leaked to Daily Mail, and it was merciless. The headline alone felt like a slap across Blake Lively's carefully curated legacy. I wish I'd never met Blake. That wasn't from a troll or a Twitter stan. That was, according to sources, Taylor Swift herself. And with that, the mask was off. This wasn't just a subtle distancing. This was a total friendship evisceration. Insiders didn't mince words. Taylor reportedly feels humiliated, manipulated, and completely used. The quote making rounds is damning. When Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realizes it wasn't worth all the stress Blake put her through. And it doesn't stop there. Sources say Taylor now sees Blake as someone who always wanted to lead the pack, someone whose antics had to be toned down constantly, and someone who, when push came to shove, only cared about preserving her own image. It's the kind of post-mortem no celebrity ever wants attached to their name. But it wasn't just Taylor cutting ties. Her boyfriend Travis Kelce reportedly wants nothing to do with Blake or Ryan Reynolds either. That's not a small move. That's one of the most visible celebrity couples on the planet drawing a red line in permanent ink. The phrasing? Disgusted. That's the word being used to describe how Taylor and Travis feel about how Blake and Ryan allegedly used her in their war with Justin Baldoni. Not disappointed, not disturbed, disgusted. And reportedly, their decision to sever ties is permanent. And suddenly, everything starts to make sense. The legal chess moves, the silence from Taylor's camp, the veiled references to clickbait and public manipulation. Taylor hasn't defended Blake once. Not in a single interview, not in a casual tweet. And in the world of celebrity alliances, silence speaks volumes.
Can you imagine the damage it would do to her brand if 10 years of text messages came out? Not only would it hurt her, but it would hurt everyone working for her. And this is a massive empire.
Especially when the one staying quiet is Taylor Swift, who knows exactly how to communicate without saying a word. Blake's team can call the subpoena withdrawal a win all they want. But in reality, it looks like the final nail in a friendship coffin that's been buried for months. The optics are brutal. One woman walking away with her integrity intact, the other clinging to a narrative the world is no longer buying. And just like that, Blake didn't just lose a friend. She lost the one person who might have shielded her from total collapse. Blake thought she had the upper hand. She thought pulling Taylor into the narrative would seal her credibility, reinforce her version of events, and back Justin Baldoni's team into a corner. But if that was her plan, it just blew up in her face. Because what started as a power play to subpoena, Taylor Swift turned into the exact thing that destroyed Blake's leverage. According to insiders, Justin's attorneys didn't withdraw that subpoena out of defeat. They walked away because they got exactly what they needed, and more. Sources now claim that Taylor's response, both legal and private, handed Baldoni's team the evidence they were missing. The kind of evidence that allegedly proves Blake lied about key elements of their former friendship. That she mischaracterized Taylor's involvement in the film, that she used her name without permission, and worse, that her legal team may have attempted to intimidate Taylor into backing her up after the fact. Rumor has it there are now documents, paper trails that back up those claims. And if even half of that makes it into court, Blake's credibility isn't just damaged, it's shattered. And here's where the strategy gets clever. By working with Taylor's attorneys in good faith, Brian Friedman effectively neutralized the need to battle in court. Instead of forcing Taylor to testify, risking bad optics or delays, they allowed her team to provide just enough behind the scenes to bury Blake's narrative. Quiet, clean, devastating. Meanwhile, Blake's side continues to insist the subpoena was just harassment. that it was all intimidation from Baldoni's team, that Taylor's involvement was being blown out of proportion. But that's hard to sell now that Taylor herself has gone on the record denying everything Blake claimed. That's hard to spin when the timeline reveals Blake dangling Taylor's name like a carrot to studio execs, claiming she'd get the song if she got her way in the editing room. And that's almost impossible to defend when sources close to the legal process say that the irrelevant subpoena magically became moot, only after Baldoni's team got damning evidence in return. In the end, the woman who tried to use Taylor as a shield may have accidentally handed the other side a sword. Because now it's not just about creative control, it's not just about post-production tantrums, it's about whether Blake Lively intentionally manipulated the truth, and whether her tactics behind the scenes reveal someone more calculated than anyone imagined. Baldoni's team isn't gloating. They don't have to. Because while Blake's legal team scrambles to spin, the court of public opinion is starting to ask a very simple question. If she lied about Taylor, what else is she lying about? What we're seeing in public may just be the tip of the iceberg. Because while the headlines scream subpoena dropped and no testimony, the real damage may still be sealed away for now. That's the thing about civil cases with gag orders. They're quiet until they're not. And right now, legal insiders say there's an entire trove of communications, documents, and internal messages that haven't been made public yet.
Who knows what were in those text messages between Taylor and Blake that Blake wants her to delete?
All thanks to strict discovery rules and a judge who's made it clear he won't tolerate trial by press. But that doesn't mean the evidence isn't there. It just means Blake's team is running out of time before it hits daylight. According to court rules in the American Bar Association, attorneys can only speak publicly about what's in the record. That means if Blake's team is hiding behind vague denials and PR spins, it may be because they know the more explosive material, like alleged threats or contradictory text messages, will eventually surface, but not through a leak, through the trial, through motions, summaries, or worse, testimony under oath. That's the moment this becomes irreversible. And here's where it gets even messier. Multiple sources close to the case say that not everyone involved has been subpoenaed, because not everyone needs to be. If a witness is cooperating voluntarily, no subpoena is required, which means it's entirely possible that Baldoni's legal team is already talking to people inside Blake's world, people who used to be in her corner, but saw enough to quietly walk away. Remember, you only subpoena people when they don't want to talk. But when people do want to talk, the floodgates can open, and Blake can't stop them. And that brings us back to the one detail that keeps resurfacing like a ghost. The text messages. The ones Blake allegedly threatened to leak. The ones that supposedly prove she tried to pressure Taylor into issuing a false statement. Those texts haven't been made public, but legal filings suggest they exist. And if those messages are authenticated, if they're entered into evidence and confirmed not to be altered, that could destroy more than just Blake's lawsuit. It could decimate her reputation as a victim, a producer, and a public figure. Because the court may be holding back now, but they won't hold back forever. And when those documents are unsealed or read aloud in court, everything Blake's tried to bury could come roaring back in a flood of receipts, including the question that haunts this entire case. If you were really telling the truth, why did your closest friend have to run from you? As Blake Lively's current legal strategy crumbles, old skeletons are rattling louder than ever. And they're not just from a movie set, they're from her own business. Long before It Ends With Us became a battleground, Blake launched a lifestyle brand called Preserve, which on the surface was all about empowering women and uplifting creative voices. But beneath the Instagram filters and curated candle collections was something far darker. And now, with her credibility under fire in the Baldoni case, that darkness is coming back to haunt her.
Blake Lively wanted her to do and support her publicly, that could have backfired big time when everyone found out that Blake Lively had been lying and Taylor Swift was supporting that, and maybe Taylor Swift even knows it's a lie.
Multiple sources, and at least one former legal insider, have pointed to buried complaints surrounding Preserve, specifically involving Blake's brother, Eric Lively. Allegedly, Eric had a sexual relationship with a subordinate employee while working under Blake's leadership. 8 employees reportedly came forward, raising concerns that the relationship was inappropriate and that it was creating a toxic and uncomfortable work environment. According to whispers from the legal community, those complaints were brushed aside, and in at least one instance, the employee involved was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement. But here's the twist. Under the 2022 Speak Out Act, NDAs related to SH or misconduct are now unenforceable, which means if the woman involved wants to speak publicly, she can. And if that original NDA was used to cover up a hostile work environment or coercive behavior, Blake, as the CEO and employer, could be held liable. Because even if she wasn't in the room, it was her company, her name on the contracts, her responsibility. The irony is painful. Blake has positioned herself as a voice for women, as someone standing against abuse and exploitation. Yet now, it's alleged that she may have silenced victims within her own brand. Victims who were too scared to speak out because of legal pressure, threats of retaliation, or a powerful woman's shadow looming over them. And while these allegations aren't part of the current lawsuit with Baldoni, legal experts say they could absolutely factor into how a court views her character and pattern of behavior. Because credibility isn't just about the present, it's about the past. And if Blake's legal team tries to paint her as a truth teller now, opposing counsel could raise a very uncomfortable question. Why should we believe you silenced no one? When there are women out there who were allegedly silenced on your watch, it's a damning parallel. In the Baldoni case, Blake is accusing others of creating a hostile work environment, but at Preserve, there are whispers that she presided over one herself. So while Blake fights to protect her narrative in court, she might want to brace for impact, because the very act she claims gives her the right to speak out may soon come back to expose what she didn't. There was a time when Blake Lively could do no wrong. She had the fashion world at her feet, Hollywood royalty on speed dial, and a picture-perfect marriage to one of the industry's most beloved comedic actors. But something has shifted, slowly, then all at once. Because as this legal storm swirls and her connection to Taylor Swift goes up in flames, industry insiders are starting to whisper what Blake's team has been desperately trying to deny. Her reputation is collapsing, and the town is taking notice.
He just confirmed what everyone else has been saying about her. He said that she was a nightmare to work with, and everyone knew about it.
I can't stand Blake Lively for reasons. Like, I have reasons why I cannot stand the woman, and I've heard it for years. And I always say in Hollywood, if you hear it over and over that someone is an absolute nightmare, at some point it's gonna come out.
Sources say Netflix execs, who were once quietly courting Blake for a high-profile series deal, are suddenly cooling off. There's concern about the optics, not just because of the lawsuit, but because Blake seems to be the common denominator in a growing web of drama. She's battling former co-stars, allegedly threatening A-listers, dragging her husband into PR crossfire, and now facing allegations of covering up a workplace harassment scandal. One executive reportedly called it too messy, too fast. And then there's Ryan Reynolds. For years, he and Blake were the golden couple, quirky, private, untouchable. But with Taylor and Travis reportedly done with both of them, even that power dynamic is starting to feel unstable. Ryan has remained silent throughout all of this, but insiders claim he's deeply uncomfortable with how far things have spiraled, especially with his name being attached to a legal war he never signed up for. Whether or not it affects his deals remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, the shine is fading. Blake's lawyers haven't helped either. While Justin Baldoni's team has stuck to legal filings and quiet strategic moves, Blake's side has gone loud, filing for sanctions, calling subpoenas harassment, painting themselves as victims of a smear campaign. But even that narrative is starting to fall apart, because when the judge declined to sanction Friedman, it undercut the entire abuse of power angle. And with Taylor's camp refusing to co-sign Blake's version of events, the spotlight has turned, and not in a flattering way. It's not just about one legal battle anymore. It's about the pattern. A woman who built her career on polish and poise now looks to some like someone unraveling in real time. And with more industry players allegedly distancing themselves behind the scenes, the fallout could be far bigger than one failed lawsuit. Because in Hollywood, your reputation is currency. And right now, Blake's stock is dropping fast. The subpoena's gone. Taylor's out. But don't be fooled. This legal nightmare is far from over. If anything, Blake Lively's so-called victory has only deepened the cracks already spreading beneath her case. Because now, the narrative is no longer hers to control. The courts have what they need. Justin Baldoni's team has what they needed. And the public? Well, they've seen enough to start asking whether the story Blake's been selling is a fairy tale or a carefully crafted illusion falling apart in slow motion. With Taylor Swift permanently out of her orbit and, allegedly, ready to let old secrets rot in the sunlight, Blake no longer has a distraction to shield her from the real fight ahead. The text messages she tried to weaponize, they're being analyzed. The claims she made about Taylor's involvement, publicly debunked. And the bigger problem? If the court determines that Blake misrepresented anything significant, be it about Taylor, the trailer, or her own role in the editing room, then her entire case could collapse under the weight of her own contradictions. Because now it's about credibility, character, and motive. Every time Blake spun Taylor's name into interviews, every time she hinted at collaboration that never happened, she wasn't just fluffing her image. She was laying the groundwork for a legal narrative, one that is now unraveling thread by thread. And there's no undoing it. Taylor Swift didn't just step away. She burned the bridge behind her. The message was loud and clear. I'm done. Don't bring my name up again. Meanwhile, the actual trial clock is still ticking. Discovery continues, evidence mounts, and Blake's team may soon face more motions. Motions to exclude, motions to compel, motions that could force the very receipts she fought to bury into the harsh glare of open court. The moment one of those text messages is authenticated and read aloud, this saga moves from gossip to damage control. Because if Blake lied about Taylor, what else has she distorted? And maybe that's the scariest part for Blake. The trial hasn't even started. The real questions, the ones about her accusations, her workplace history, her credibility, are all waiting for their moment in court. She's lost allies. She's lost control of the narrative. And for the first time in her career, she's lost the audience. So what do you think? Did Taylor Swift dodge a bullet? Or was Blake Lively exposed as someone who built her case on friendship, only to watch that friendship blow up in her face? And are we just seeing the beginning of something even darker? Leave a comment and tell us what you believe really happened. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.